All right, we are live. Welcome to a brand new edition of Between the Links on the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network and broadcasting live on the Loudmouth MMA YouTube channel. Hope everyone's having a great start to their week. My name is Mike Heck. I am your host. One fight card has gone. Big one coming up on Saturday night with UFC 248. And as always, we have a lot to discuss here on Between the Links. So let us introduce the panel. First, Mr. Keith Schillen is here, ready to throw down as always. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm a little overweight for the show, but other than that, man, everything's good. I'm here to put on a show for the fans. They deserve that, and that's what I'm here to do.
I like the new microphone, man. New piece of equipment.
Yeah, well, I've actually had it for a long time. I just haven't used it.
Oh, there you go. And he's back, folks. And from what I understand, without a hockey victory to show for his 48-hour absence from the network to begin last week. Is that accurate? Hot take, Craig Allen?
2 games in a row, total score of 15-2, and that was against us. Listen, Mike, you guys had a theme last week, but like Billy Joel in the 90s, you fell flat. So let me inject some 90s into the podcast. Listen, my parents made the best decision of the decade, and I burst onto the scene in 1994. But as odd as that intro was, I'm here to drop the hammer on 90s references. They have to stop, guys. The hip-hop lyrics, it's enough. So I'm going to bust out my favorite song that was released in the 1990s. It was a veritable one-hit wonder by the Otara Millionaires Club. You know where I'm going with this one? Any guesses? Came out in 1995. Well, if you want to know the rest, hey, buy the rights. How bizarre. Back to you, Mike.
Oh, my God. You just did that. Davidson Baker is here. How do you follow that up? You bring on Davidson Baker. That UFC OKC card is coming together pretty nicely, Davidson. That must make you happy, right?
Should be a nice night at the Peak. Hopefully I can get there. I'm surprised I totally start my dialogue without knowing if you guys can hear me or not. But regardless, I didn't know if my mic was working coming on. I know you're going to welcome him too. Welcome to our venerable guest as well. I'm happy to be here this week, ready to get going.
Yes, our aforementioned special guest panelist this week, the man behind Kumite TV. In fact, we did a sort of a year-end wrap-up show in Between the Links. We just had the panelists come on and talk some MMA. And one of the questions we had is, who do we need to get on Between the Links in 2020? And Craig Allen's pick was this man, Mr. John Hyon Ko, JHK himself, and he is here. How are you, sir?
Good. JHK MMA, Korean John, as I'm known in Asia, your local Asian. I'm hyped to be here. Just in case I don't perform well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use Deontay Wilder's excuse and blame it on my corner.
This is going to be a great show, ladies and gentlemen. The rebuttal rule, gentlemen, is in full effect. You can do so in the private chat for those watching on YouTube. We'll be jumping on from time to time. You want to take part in the show. Once a round comes to an end, feel free to leave in the comments section who you think won the round. Maybe give your take on everything if you'd like. And while you're at it, hit the old subscribe button. I think there's only like 53 subscribers on this page, but hopefully we can grow that a little bit. But let's begin where you probably assumed we would, the aftermath of the main event Saturday night in Norfolk, Virginia. Davidson Figueiredo finishes Joseph Benavidez in the second round. It was a fun fight while it lasted, and once the action began, Henry Cejudo was officially no longer the UFC flyweight champion. And as you probably know by now, neither is Davidson Figueiredo after missing weight on Friday, and there is no 125-pound champion right now. So, Craig, we're going to start with you. Get to kick off the show this week. I'll make this as simple as possible. To quote the great Robert Goulet, what do we do now?
Lovely question, Mike. I'm glad you asked me first. And at the top of the MMA echelon, you've got the Mystic Mac. But when these shades go on, you might as well call me Cryptic Craig or just regular Craig because I'm low on the totem pole. But in terms of what I said in 2019, where does UFC flyweight, where does the division go after UFC Norfolk? What did I say? Brandon Moreno is going to be champ by the end of 2020. And this sets it up beautifully. You've got Moreno and Formiga coming up at UFC Brasilia. And listen, if Brandon Moreno wins that fight, give him Davidson Figueiredo the middle of summer. I'm going to eat my brownie here. Hopefully, Davidson Figueiredo gives up the brownies, gives up the sweets and the pizzas, and he gets hard back into training because I think Brandon Moreno has a legit shot at winning this belt and ending this year as your UFC flyweight champ.
Davidson, what do you think? Where does 125 go from Saturday night?
It's a really good question, honestly. And interesting one. And one that obviously in some minds, a lot of people, and rightfully so, would probably try their hardest to circumnavigate their way around the possibility of an immediate rematch. But to be quite honest with you guys, at least when I sit down and practically think about it, it's the most possible and the most realistic scenario, at least in my opinion, to just get these guys to run back and use the blanket from Figueiredo missing weight and winning the fight as emphatically as he did as the reason why. And to be honest with you, if you want to take positives away from Joey B, while there are very little of them, as far as his stature in the sport is concerned, from a fan base perspective, the crowd popped for him. You could tell on social media that people were rooting for him. You could tell that people, I mean, we all know, we've been watching the sport long enough to know how many times he's gotten to the top and how many times he's gotten knocked back down. I think that a lot of people were kind of finding a way to root for him through that this week. And who knows, maybe another easy marketable fight at flyweight, throw a belt on the line and see if Davidson can figure out his weight issues next time.
JHK, we talked about this on Saturday night, sort of in the immediate aftermath of it all. Now that we've had almost 48 hours to digest this whole situation, where do we go after Saturday night at 125? We
definitely don't go with Brandon Moreno. I don't know what's in that shit sandwich you just ate, Craig, but that looked like a piece of shit. I'm serious. It just looked like a piece of shit that you put in your mouth, and it must have some drugs inside of it because you're talking crazy. There you go. You swallowed the whole thing. Why are you deep throwing that thing? Come on, stop with it. Right now, the best thing for you to do, I think, for the UFC to do is to go with the rematch. Let them fight again. Figueiredo, of course, everybody believes that he is the number one flyweight in the world other than Henry Cejudo. Why not let them fight again? He missed weight. Let him prove that he's the champion. And afterwards, he said that he is the champion. He must be on drugs. That brownie he ate after the fight must have had some drugs inside of it because he is not the champion. He needs to prove it by making weight and getting in that cage again with Joey B. Give Joey B another chance. He deserves it. I don't know if he's a legend, but he is a guy that's been around and he's proven himself. And you got to give it to him, man. You got to give him the rematch. Let them fight later this year somewhere, but don't give Brandon Moreno a chance at the title. That does not make any sense. Go eat that brownie.
It doesn't make sense because he's got to beat Formiga, but he's going to beat Formiga, so it makes tons of sense.
Craig, don't worry. I'll do it for you, buddy.
Go ahead, Keith.
Well, first of all, you should book David Figueiredo in another title fight. Yeah, sure, he missed weight, but we've seen a lot of guys miss weight and go on to be successful. I mean, Ray Borg got a title fight after he missed weight several times at flyweight. Yoel Romero, who's fighting this weekend, has missed weight 2 times for the title, and he's fighting again. Other guys that have missed weight or had weight issues where they couldn't fight on the day of the fight, Habib, Amanda Nunes, Max Holloway, Henry Cejudo, Anthony Pettis, those guys have been pretty successful. So people like saying he should never get another title shot, that's crazy. Who should Deiveson Figueiredo fight? Not Joseph Benavidez. We shouldn't give Joseph Benavidez another title shot. He's 0-3 and he just got knocked out stiff. And we're going to pretend that the 2.5 pounds was the reason why he got knocked out stiff? No, because he got blasted with a straight right hand. And he's 35 and he's aging and he's getting slower. Who should he fight? He should fight the winner of Jussier Formiga and Brandon Moreno. Now, first of all, Formiga owns a win over Deiveson Figueiredo. So that right there, he's ranked number 2. And then to say Moreno's ranked number 5. If he wins, which is the fight happening this month, he would just take out number 2 and probably be ranked number 2. So you'd have the number 1, number 2 guy going against each other. So, yeah, I mean, that's really the only fight to make is Deiveson Figueiredo versus the winner of Jussier Formiga and Brandon Moreno.
Drake Riggs pops in with the first comment / question of the night. Is John's costume something out of Wilder's wardrobe, or am I confused? And Drake was late to the party. JHK gave a great explanation on that. And if you would like to give the Reader's Digest version, JHK, of your ensemble here for Mr. Riggs, go right ahead.
There's no explanation. Riggs was too late to the party. He doesn't deserve that. He doesn't deserve it. He needs to just shut off and go to sleep in his cave on the Northwest somewhere.
In other words, Drake, go back to the archives once it's live and running. Craig Allen's going to get the 10 points here to kick things off. Welcome back, sir. Now, I actually, you know what? I want to carry on a little bit, just for conversation purposes, because there is a narrative out there. It's sort of like the negative Nancy side of things, but there are people that believe that this whole thing spells the beginning of the end for the UFC flyweight division. Maybe not like immediately, but I guess if we're making a comparison here, like the trip has been booked and we're like starting to throw the clothes in the suitcases, we haven't left the house yet, but you know what I mean. Like we're like days away from it. That's what people think. So on a scale of 1 to 10, Keith, in your opinion, Saturday night was the first few baby steps on the road to this division being no more. Do you agree with that sentiment? And if so, how would you sort of rank that on a scale of 1 to 10?
I put it like a 5. I mean, the division has survived before. The last time they tried to end the division, there was huge backlash. And what's the point? There'd be huge backlash again. And whether Figueiredo missed weight or not, it was an exciting fight. We can't get past that. And when was the last time we had a boring flyweight fight? I mean, there's your argument right there why you should keep the division. Like, I honestly can't remember the last time there was a boring flyweight fight. Like years ago? I mean, when?
It's been a while. JHK, what do you think? What are you scaling that at?
Like I said in the last show we did, I put it as a 3. You know, I don't know. Like people are talking about, oh yeah, the flyweights are exciting, but the flyweights are not doing any favors for themselves. You know what I mean? Like Figueiredo, he should have made weight. You know, it's part of the fight game. You got to do it. And you would have had a belt wrapped around your waist, and people would have been talking about how great you are and how the flyweight division is going to continue with a great champion. But now it's not, and there's no champion. Give that belt back to Cejudo. Let him carry it around. Let him act crazy. Let him be Triple C. And yeah, man, nothing else to say about that division.
David said we're having some fun here. Aaron Bronstetter put out a tweet earlier that the UFC should sort of borrow Invicta's Phoenix Series strategy when it comes to the flyweights and maybe do a 4 or 8-man tournament, have the same 1-round structure in the opening round matchups, and then have sort of a regular fight in the finals to crown a champion. Do you agree with that sentiment?
I agree with it. That sounds fantastic. Will they ever do that though? Almost next to it's right underneath impossible on the list of probability, in my opinion. That sounds like a fantastic idea, and I'm sure we'd all be down for it. As far as 125 pounds is concerned, the level of concern for me for it going away again, or at least taking the beginning steps towards that, is about the same as Keith's. And I think Keith made a really good point. Name the last flyweight fight you saw that sucked. I mean, there's not archives of flyweight fights at the frontal lobes of everybody here. Like, it's going to take a minute, but at the end of the day, I mean, flyweight fights almost always deliver at least action from bell to bell. I mean, that's what they're there for, or that's what the division was kind of brought in for in the first place. I'm not too concerned as a fan of the flyweight division for it to leave, but I understand like why that sentiment would be out there. About a 4 or 5 for me.
All right. John Franklin chimes in. Only MMA would discuss getting rid of a division. It's a division. Why do they have to prove why they have to stay? Plenty of divisions have gone through lulls. With that being said, Craig Allen has taken the hot take shades off, and he's got that look in his eyes.
Just put them back on again. I'm going to help out Keith here in a private chat because he was going to toss out a rebuttal to Davidson. Davidson, you know what I like?
Well, I wasn't towards Davidson, but
oh, okay. Well, that's fair. You can rebut against me, I guess, if you want. But Davidson, you know what I like? Inflated records or deflated records? Look at Brianna Van Buren's record right now. I think she's great. I had her ranked in her division, but she won 3 fights in a row in an Invicta Phoenix Rising card. Again, they're 1-round fights. So you can either build somebody's record way up and pad it, or you can deflate it and add to the losses. It's ridiculous. It's so stupid. It's such a bad idea. Out of all the hot takes this weekend, that was one of the worst ones. And if you're going to make a hot take like that, buy a pair of cheap sunglasses. As far as answering your first question, I'll give it a 4. Tyson Nam is 0-2 in the UFC. His 2 losses are to Sergio Pettis and then a crazy, crazy fight in his last time out where he took on Kai Kara-France. He's ranked 15th. You can't go wrong with this division. Raulian Paiva is ranked 13th. Paiva is ranked 13th. He's 1-2 in the UFC. All of his fights have been awesome. So if you want to get rid of this division, you don't have eyeballs behind your sunglasses and you don't care about mixed martial arts. You're the type of Sooner like Davidson that sits in a bar, drinks 5 or 6 beers and goes, you know what? I could beat the hell out of that guy. He's just a wee little fella.
I think we need to give Craig a week off like once a month because he's on fire tonight. Keith types in rebuttal.
Okay,
we're not even going to count this as a rebuttal.
Listen, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I should have got I had a better argument last round. I should have got the 10 points for that. But who was it that you said that came up with the idea to do it like the Invicta series?
Bronstetter put that out there.
All right, I love that guy. He's one of the best ones. But that is a terrible idea, and I hope this gets cut and sent to Aaron. You want 1-round fights? That's what you want? You want a tournament of 1-round fights? Because that's what happens in the Invicta. They move on with a 1-round win. Yeah. So flyweights, the best. Like in my the most action-packed flip the run. Let me ask this question: Who won? Who won the first round between Benavidez and Figueiredo? I don't know. It's pretty close. So in that case, we wouldn't have seen Benavidez get knocked out stiff. Then you have the division that pretty much everyone says is the most shallow for men's divisions. And then you're going to have a tournament, and then you're going to have all the guys have already faced each other. When the champion wins, who's in the challenge? The 8 guys who left in the division just was in the tournament. Like, who's next after that? It's a terrible idea. But that said, I also want to point another thing out, and I don't mean to pick on this guy because I don't even know the guy. He seems like a nice guy, and I like his interviews and stuff. But I got to go after my man John because he said that, like, flyweights aren't helping out the division because they missed weight. Well, did Khabib help out lightweight when he missed weight? Did Joe Riggs help out welterweight when he missed weight for a title shot? Travis Lutter and Yo Romero at middleweight? Anthony Pettis at featherweight? I mean, we can go through every single division of people missing weight. So why is it a big deal when a flyweight misses weight?
Go ahead, John.
Joe Riggs.
Yeah,
You're bringing up Joe Riggs.
Yeah. He fought for the UFC title.
Okay, now we're talking about that's like
Yeah. I also mentioned Khabib. Did you miss that? I also mentioned Yoel Romero. I mentioned
Khabib.
Like
and Joe Riggs. That's great. That's great. Now we're talking about divisions that are already settled. You know what I mean? Divisions that are not on the brink of being lost in the shuffle, right? Like this is a division that needs their luck. It needs luck, right? It needs luck. It needs the professionals to act professional. Okay. And this professional did not act professional at the most important time, right? At the most important time. So I don't understand why you would bring up those divisions when this division is in a totally different state right now. Like,
okay. What do you say?
The company.
What would you say is the best division in MMA?
The best division in MMA right now in the UFC or MMA?
UFC. Either
in the UFC, the best division in the UFC, I would have to say, is the featherweight division.
All right. I thought you were going to say lightweight because that's what pretty much everyone says. At one time, lightweight got kicked out of the UFC. They actually got cut. So
yes, I know, but that's when there was only 4 divisions in the UFC.
Yeah. Well, there was 5.
Yeah, that's totally different.
That's
a totally
there
different
was 5
era.
and they cut him.
Yeah, it's a totally different era.
No, they cut him because they thought they weren't entertaining enough.
Oh, I understand that. Yes, I understand that. But it's a totally different era. We're in the 2020 right now. We're in 2020. I think that was like when was that? That was like 2005
or 2002, 2003.
Exactly. Like totally different era. We're talking about totally different divisions, totally different. I don't know. I can't go on with it. You know what I mean? Like I'm confused right now with your thoughts and you're attacking me and you're confusing me, Keith. And I don't know what I want to do.
All right, we're going to move on to the next question. John Franklin wants to chime in terms of the flyweight division. Davidson's hat is horrible, but we aren't getting rid of that. So we move on to the next question because the other big talking point coming out of that sort of wacky UFC Norfolk card has to do with another division that most feel doesn't have a long future ahead of it. That's the women's featherweight division. We had 2 fights at 145 on the main card Saturday night. First, we had Megan Anderson. She knocks out Norma Dumont in the first round. One big shot, floored Dumont. Whether you thought it was an early stoppage or not, ref wasn't taking any chances. The fight was over 3 minutes, 31 seconds in. And the co-main event, Felicia Spencer just destroyed Zara Farron. Winning via TKO is pretty brutal from, the minute 25 mark. Once Felicia Spencer got to the ground, it was just a brutal beatdown. Now, Kumite reports last week that Amanda Nunes is targeting a return in Brazil at UFC 250 in May to defend her women's featherweight title against one of these 2 ladies. So Davidson Baker, we're going to start with you here. Both women did what they needed to do, right? Anderson now has back-to-back finish wins. She has the longest winning streak in the division. I don't know what kind of merit that holds, but Spencer bounces back from a loss, but she does have a win over Anderson and finished her less than a year ago. So if you're the UFC, who gets the shot and why?
My answer really should be, and I really want it to be, neither of them. Who cares? Conan Silveira should put his arm around Amanda and say, hey, what's up with all this 145 LB business, Amanda? What are we doing here? But I mean, at the end of the day, Amanda Nunes is not that type of individual. And I do feel like it's going to be Megan Anderson next, just just literally based on the fact that she's got another dub next to her name, more so than Felicia Spencer does in the moment as far as momentum is concerned, even though Felicia beat her head to head. But at the end of the day, I mean, neither of the options presented here are appetizing beyond any stretch of the imagination as far as being a fan is concerned. I mean, think about the body of work here, too, from both Spencer and Anderson. Neither of these girls are ready for a title shot, especially not against a girl like Amanda Nunes, a fighter like Amanda Nunes. And what does Sean Shelby say all the time? We build contenders. We do not build champions. There's no ability to build contenders in this division if you're fighting UFC debutantes every time you walk out, and then they give you Chris Cyborg like they did with Spencer. I don't know why they don't just shut it down already, but at the end of the day, I mean, gun to my head, you have to pick one. It's Megan Anderson for me.
Who had the cop sirens going off in the background? Am I the only one who heard that? I thought I heard it.
Probably the cops.
Either way, GHK. I know again. We're in a position where we talked about this on Saturday, but where are you at on this Monday? Have things changed for you? Where are you heading?
When a guy looks like an extra from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, you can't believe anything he says. It's just, who not ready for a title shot? What are you talking about? Everybody's ready for a fucking title shot. You're ready for a title shot. If you're going to get paid 6 figures, you're going to step in that cage and fight. But with that said, I believe that the circumstances right now, it is Amanda Nunes defending her featherweight title in Brazil. Who do you give that fight to? You give that fight to Megan Anderson. We kind of went into that in the last show, but I'm going to reiterate that it's in Brazil. It's in hostile territory. Megan Anderson, she loves the hate. If you've seen her, she's blocking everybody on Twitter because they said something negative to her after her fight. And she seems like she's feeling herself right now. So why don't you take that momentum and send her to Brazil in hostile territory? She can build the fight. She can talk a little trash with her little accent and give it to her. Now with Spencer, you let her cook. You let her, steam a little bit and let her get better and give her the next shot after that. You know what I mean? Like Megan, there's probably like a 10% chance that she will win that fight. But hey, if she does win that fight in Brazil, you go back to Canada after this and give them a pay-per-view for the featherweight title. That's it. Out.
Keith, you can obviously find ways and make cases for both of these ladies. So who's it going to be? Who would you pick if you were Dana White in the brass here?
Yeah, I don't know if you can make a compelling case for either one of them, but they really should be arguing who shouldn't be fighting for the title. They should be offering the other person up as sacrifice. That's what they should be doing. To me, it has to be Felicia Spencer. She's ranked higher, and she has not only a win over Megan Anderson, she stopped her easily. That said, Amanda Nunes is going to destroy both of them. I mean, they could tag team and take one, like switch round and Amanda Nunes, she'd still come in as like a negative 800 favorite if that was the option. While I think Spencer's a better fighter than Megan Anderson, this could actually surprise you. I actually think Megan Anderson might be a better stylistic matchup against Amanda Nunes, though I still think she would get absolutely slaughtered. And the reason why I say that is Amanda Nunes is better than Felicia Spencer in every possible area: striking, grappling, experience, speed, power, everything. You could say all that except for one category against Megan Anderson. Megan Anderson is bigger, much bigger than Amanda Nunes. She'd be the biggest fighter that Amanda Nunes could ever go against. That's it. So what I don't like, and this is probably something stupid that Craig's going to say, is Megan has more followers on Twitter. She's really popular, or she's really popular on Instagram. I've seen people like make that argument. That's why Megan Anderson should get the next title shot. Yeah, because all those people who follow her, like those are people who don't watch MMA. They're gonna watch MMA because Megan Anderson's on a pay-per-view. That's what you're telling me? Like they wouldn't just watch anyways? No, they're a bunch of horny dudes who go to her Twitter because she throws up half-naked pictures. That's it. Neither one of these girls are gonna sell. They're gonna be on a co-main event. Listen. They're not getting Amanda Nunes in Brazil headlining. It's not going to happen. They're going to put somebody else in that main event.
Craig Allen's hot take shades are off, but he's got them in his hand. So go ahead, sir.
Boys, you guys are forgetting something incredibly important because there's a perfect storm a brewing, and you guys are forgetting the X factor here. What happens when the preacher's daughter wins at 135 pounds? Well, the last time I checked, she got a title shot at 145 pounds, so it's looking like Holly Holmes going to Brazil in a main event against Amanda Nunes. If we're focusing on this fight and the two fighters at hand, listen, we've already seen the rangy striker narrative in Amanda Nunes' last opponent as Jermaine Durandamy. So this time around, you book her against Anderson. You have the promos that show Jermaine Durandamy where she was able to actually land a couple of strikes. And then you have Joe Rogan selling that pay-per-view, convincing the most casual of fans that she's hurt, among other things. So you just show those GDR clips. You say, hey, Megan Anderson's long and rangy. She has a 2-fight win streak at 145. She's a former champion Invicta. And it's an easier sell than Felicia Spencer is, because all you have to do as an MMA fan is go back and watch Felicia Spencer's fight against Chris Cyborg. Yes, it went all 3 rounds, but she lost them convincingly. Megan Anderson's the one that you want to go with. And if you're not going to go there, you go with the preacher's daughter, because it's the perfect storm.
Listen, Craig, you said they'd sell. Neither one of these fights would sell. No, there's not a single person that'd be like, man, I want to buy that pay-per-view because Megan Anderson's fighting Amanda Nunes. It'd be whatever the top fight above that is. Or they're the people like us who just order everyone.
How many times has Amanda Nunes headlined a card, Keith? It's because she sells. She's a pound-for-pound GOAT in MMA. She sells. I know, listen, Darren Rovell hates against her.
Hold on.
That guy's the guy that opens baseball cards on Periscope.
Craig. Listen, man, this ain't like I'm not sitting out this week. Like this isn't like John Franklin and filling in. Listen, you say something like that, back it up with stats. Don't just say she sells. She sold once when she went against Ronda Rousey. Was that Amanda Nunes who sold, or was it Ronda Rousey, or was it when she headlined UFC 200 and had Brock Lesnar on? Was it? I'm sure it was Amanda Nunes going for her first title shot. That's what sold it, right? It wasn't Brock Lesnar, right?
So we're talking UFC 200, we're talking UFC 207, we're talking UFC 215, we're talking UFC 224.
Hold on, I just smashed those first two. They didn't sell because Amanda Nunes.
It doesn't. She topped 4 pay-per-views in a row.
No. But tell me the buys. You said she sells. Let's hear the pay-per-view buys for that. Let's see Shevchenko versus Nunes 2. Let me see the pay-per-view buys on that.
I think about 140K if I remember.
Yeah, like seriously, stop. That's like Demetrius Johnson, Ali Bagatinov level. Like stop.
And then I think the Pennington.
That was a flyweight fight that was on the brink of elimination, and John hates the flyweights. I want to spread that rumor. John hates all the flyweights.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, she had over 1 million buys, and I don't care how
against Ronda Rousey.
UFC 200. I don't care.
Against Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey had 1 million pay-per-view buys against Betch Correia.
Didn't she win, though? Didn't she win?
We're not talking about how good she is. We're talking about, like, Demetrius Johnson. Demetrius Johnson may be the most talented fighter in history, but he doesn't sell. That's why they traded him for Ben Askren.
You don't put somebody in fourth.
Hang on to that venom, Craig. Hang on to that venom. Some good arguments. In the end, JHK is going to get the 10 points as we continue on here. John had what did John say? Always give the fight to the fighter who can help with the promotion if all things are equal. But again, kind of a tough position. I mean, I get it. There is a shred of truth to the social media following. I mean, it's not like Megan Anderson has like 10,000 Instagram followers more than Felicia Spencer. She has 400,000 more.
But not a single one of them is going to order a pay-per-view if they took out Megan Anderson and put in Felicia Spencer. Like neither one of them are going to go, wow, I wasn't going to order that because Megan Anderson's not in, it's Felicia Spencer. Like those people are already buying the pay-per-views.
Right. More people.
Nobody's buying more.
Right. But also think about it this way. If you go, I'm going to use the James Lynch argument. If you go to a grocery store and you ask 10 casual MMA fans who Felicia Spencer is, 1 or 2 are going to know. If you ask them Megan Anderson, I'd say 50% are going to know who she is.
I totally disagree.
I'd say less than that.
I think you're crazy.
Maybe 40. And Felicia Spencer.
I mean,
it'll be
more people will know who Megan Anderson is than Felicia Spencer.
But none of them are going to order the pay-per-view. None of them I'm going to order the pay-per-view.
Maybe they will. Maybe they won't.
Anderson fan. I'm a huge Megan Anderson fan.
It's a shitty situation to be in right now. We would want a better fight. I wish Nunes would just stay at 35, and 45 could just be like a fun division where you just fill in some gaps if you need to. But we are where we are. Drake Riggs
and fight Irene Aldana, because that's an even more compelling fight.
Just bring in fighters that haven't fought in a year and a half, have a Sonda background. All the YouTube commenters could say I'm an idiot and tell me that she's going to win. And look what happened, YouTube.
Yeah, look at
Drake Riggs, UFC 224, Nunes versus Pennington, the lowest during the modern era, 100K. Shevchenko one wasn't great either. That was before Cyborg.
Yeah, there you go. So go back,
which is the co-main.
So go back and do the right thing and give me the 10 points.
Not even a mention. She wasn't even the main event until the morning they woke up.
Shut your trap, Davidson. You're not going to win a single round.
That's absolutely on my title defense.
And Drake and John and whoever else is watching, feel free to these rounds. But weird lines. I mean, there's just a lot of chaos that came with it. But some of the things that came out of Saturday, they're not being talked about as much because of the chaos, and that's why we're here on this show. So JHK, we're going to start with you. What under the radar story, what under the radar fighter are you keeping an eye on after Saturday night's event in Norfolk? Like who or what deserves more shine 48 hours after that event? What are you going to be paying attention to in the coming weeks or months after that event that's not on the top of everyone's minds right now?
Nobody. To be honest with you, there's nobody that I'm going to be paying attention to in this fight. And if there was anybody, it would only be Figueiredo. But that's the main topic coming out of this, this lackluster card. There's a lot of talking points, but there's not some fighter that I want to just be like, oh, this fighter, I'm focused on this fighter. Like most of the fighters that I felt that were going to shine on this card did not shine. And that makes me depressed a little bit, stuck in my bunker in Korea because of this damn coronavirus. But anyways, there's nobody. The only person I'm looking for is Figueiredo. What are they going to do with Figueiredo? Is he going to fight for the title again? Or is Cejudo going to fight him? Or I don't know. Whatever happens to him, that's what I'm looking for. And on top of that, let me add one more thing. Benavidez. Will he retire? That's the only thing that I'm looking for.
Keith, what do you think?
Well, we're thinking strictly from a fighter. It's got to be Spike Carlisle. I mean, first of all, he's got the best nickname in MMA, the Alpha Ginger. And then, I mean, he's a great character. I mean, he's dropping the 187 on the 666. So, I mean, that's dope. But what I like the story that's out there is Kevin McDonald, the referee, getting all this hate. I've been saying it for years. It's not a hot take. Kevin McDonald is a mediocre to bad referee. I mean, you watch him on the regional scene. He's the king of letting guys either stall from on top or stall in the clinch without ever breaking them up. Now, look at this night. Let's start with Grant Dawson versus Derek Minner. He allowed about 10 punches in the back of the head of Derek Minner, didn't stop it, didn't take a point, didn't do nothing. Just let Grant Dawson just freaking speedbag the back of Derek Minner's head. Then take Megan Anderson versus Norma Dumont. That was an early stoppage too. Like, was Dumont hurt? Yeah. Was she rocked? Yeah. Was she unconscious? No. Was she actually looking up at Megan Anderson, ready to like grapple? Where if you're going against Megan Anderson, that's what you want. Norman Dumont wanted it on the ground, and then you stopped it, and then you got let's back up. We had the Magomed Ankalaev versus Ian Cutelaba. First, you're in the cage. You're the referee. You let Cutelaba basically come across and start a fight before the fight even happens. He never gets in the way. And then, as the fight happens, now he decides to jump in the way when Cutelaba is throwing big haymakers back and forth. Listen, this guy, I'm sure he's a nice guy. I can tell he's a nice guy because I went to his Facebook page, and tons of fighters are his friends. Not going to mention that's probably a really big conflict of interest that a referee is friends with Facebook friends with a bunch of fighters. Listen, if I was a fighter and I saw my opponent was
wrap it up, Keith,
with a referee. No, I'm saying this because a lot of media members don't want to call this bullshit out. He's Facebook friends with a whole bunch of fighters. All your friends come to his fence. If I'm an opponent and I see that Kevin McDonald is Facebook friends with my opponent, I'm immediately telling the commission and asking for a new referee because he's not that's not fair. Like, how can you say that he's not biased? Anyways, I know I'm not getting 10 points for that.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't expect Kevin McDonald to be your answer, but hot take shades on the face.
Well,
go ahead,
guess
Craig.
what, Mike? It was my answer. I wrote it down. Kevin McDonald for safety's sake, period. That was my answer. You know what else is my answer, Mike? I'm going to say Sean Brady versus Ismail Nardiev. You know why? Because that's the only fight that Keith didn't have in his answer. He picked every single friggin' fight. So way to go, Keith. Just blow your load on every single fight and make it count. Realistically, for me, it's the two fighters that fought, and in particular, they were either wronged or not wronged by Kevin McDonald. And listen, JHK MMA is saying that this was the weekend where, man, I'm depressed because all my fighters lost. What are you, Moldova's biggest MMA fan because Sergey Spivak and Hyon Kutelaba lost? Listen, realistically, the biggest storyline from this weekend is how good is Magomed Ankalaev? Because apparently Aaron Bronstetter is the biggest Magomed Ankalaev stand in the entire world, and he should be ranked 6th in the light heavyweight rankings. I think he's great. I think the performances against Dalcha Champ, former UFC champ, that was great. The performance against Kutelaba was great. So what do you do with him next? Jimmy Crute coming off a win, or Misha Serkinov. You test that wrestling and grappling ability, because every stand that's out there and casual fan on the internet is saying that Magomed Ankalaev sucks because Paul Craig submitted him. All right, this is your chance. Put him against a guy that's a decent wrestler, a half-decent grappler, and Serkinov or Crute, and then you can say, hey, finally, you can erase those doubts. Magomed Ankalaev is the guy that you have to pay attention to after this weekend. Plus, he flipped off the fans in Norfolk. How crazy is that?
Craig, his next opponent is Ian Kutalaba. They're going to let them finish that.
I don't care. I don't want to see that. Just like I don't want to see the rematch of the main event.
You don't want to see
Just
it.
like I'm getting tired of facing you in the finals because these chumps can't, they can't kick it.
Just going to let them finish up real quick.
Kick it, Davidson.
A lot of good points being made. Craig coming out on fire. You got to respect it. And to be honest with you, I actually misunderstood this question and thought we were looking ahead. But honestly, I'm not going to have any difficulty answering it at all, because I think this answer to me is somewhat obvious and also kind of being overlooked by the MMA public. A guy that's been overlooked for a while, at least on the regional scene, is Brendan Allen. Fighting out of Rufus Sport, former LFA middleweight champion. Only losses in his professional career were when he was 22 or younger, all against fellow LFA middleweight champions that became fellow UFC middleweight fighters themselves. And he's won 6 fights in a row. He's looked damn good while doing it throughout. I think Tom Breeze is a guy too that was on a lot of people's radars. I don't know how the hell that guy ever made 170, let alone 185. He is huge, and Brendan Allen got him out of there inside of 5 minutes. I think that's a guy you definitely are going to have to keep your eyes on at 185 pounds.
We got a comment in here from David's Parmcast, whose real name is actually David Schillen. Said Keith is the best thing about this show. So, brother, cousin, do you know a David Schillen, Keith? You must. Now you're muted.
Knows,
so you're
hey, everyone knows Chicken Parm Dave. No, listen. Hey, everyone knows I get great on the curve because I win every single round. And David, I appreciate the love there, Chicken Parm Dave.
Dave is actually Spike Carlisle. Insider information.
What's a Parmcast? That sounds great.
Chicken Parm Dave.
What? Keith's gonna get 10 points this time because I don't
there
want
you go.
Chicken
All
Parm
because
Dave
of Chicken
coming
Parm
after me.
Dave. Thank you, Dave.
So there you go. So we're gonna move ahead. We're going to put UFC Norfolk in the back burner. We're going to move ahead to Las Vegas, Nevada. This Saturday, UFC 248 goes down at the T-Mobile Arena. We get 2 world titles on the line. Main event, Israel Adesanya defending his middleweight title against Yoel Romero. Co-main event, defending her for the first time against Joanna Jacek. These are 2 really great fights. Fascination. Like, no matter what lenses you choose to look at these fights with, Keith, what title fight in fast Yoel or Zhang Wei Li versus Joanna, and why?
So I like both fights from an X's and O's stance. I think it's fun, stylistic matchup. I think all 4 fighters have a chance of going home with the hard way, like a good chance. That says, when I think about the 4 fighters, Romero doesn't have a long title run left in him. The 2 women can. Yoel Romero he turns 43 years old next month. He's lost 3 out of his last 4 fights. He missed weight multiple times fighting for the title. You compare that to Joanna Jacek, the greatest strawweight in the history of the sport, going into the, I was going to say rising star out of China, but she's fully arrived in Weili Zhang, who's only 30 years old. She's on a 20-fight winning streak. She hasn't lost in 7 years. And then just the division is better. There's like, if whoever wins, especially if Weili wins, I think the matchups are. I mean, you got Rose Namajunas, you got Jessica Andrade rematch, you got Tatiana Suarez. I mean, there's so many opportunities in that division compared to what's left at middleweight. Like Costa, who knows when he comes back, and Jared Cannonier. Like Jared Cannonier is like sells even less than Megan Anderson does. That's why he didn't get the
10
shot.
seconds.
They went to Yoel Romero. So that's it.
Greg, did you change hot take shades? You look like the Terminator right now.
Yeah, I got to see what I can do here, Mike. All right. So Paulo Costa, who doesn't want to see that fight? A little bit of drip drip with the IV vid. You can put that out there and sell that fight easy. The people on Twitter and Instagram are going to love it. Keith doesn't love it, but I'm going to continue. Which fight do I care more about? If you look at these two fights, like Keith said, from an X's and O's standpoint, they're great fights. You can't go wrong with the main or the co-main. But I have to lend credence to the co-main event because the odds are quite a bit closer. And you have two fights that stylistically match up very, very well. And if you want to look over at the stats column, significant strikes landed per minute for Zhang, it's 6.22 per minute compared to Hyon and Jacek 6.18. You go down through the list, their defense, their absorbed per minute, everything's neck and neck. So where does it go from here? Zhang Weili has proved that her power has been great, and she's only fought 4 times in the UFC. We've seen more of Israel Adesanya lately, which is awesome. I think he's the biggest star in the sport. But just how big can Zhang Weili become as a star in North America? She's already huge in China. Drake Riggs has already given us a breakdown of how big of a star she is internationally. But for me, this is the final nail in the coffin. If you beat Joanna and Jacek, who a lot of people still consider as the queen of the strawweight division after the 5 title defenses, man, you made your mark. So for me, it's Zhang Weili and Joanna and Jacek in the co-main event.
Davidson, both obviously are great fights. Both champions are on the cusp of something absolutely massive here. Adesanya is right there in terms of superstar potential with the mainstream audience. Weili's star has risen in a big way as well, and she could break the damn door down on Saturday, both defending against dangerous challengers with long storied resumes. So Davidson, if you could only watch one, what are you watching?
It's got to be the main. And I love the strawweight division. Anybody that knows me talks to me about female MMA, women's MMA, period, knows that I'm a pretty big fan of strawweight division. I've always said that there's a lot of talent coming out of that division, let alone at the top, where Weili Zhang has been, as Keith said, putting females in practical body bags out of the octagon cage, whatever may have you, for the past 7 years straight. It's a great fight, as you guys would all say, but it's got to be the main event for me. And for some reason, every single time we come around to a Yoel Romero fight, MMA Twitter gets all hyped up and goes, this is the time. This is the time Yoel Romero is going to take his opponent down and ride his wrestling to victory. And I'm here to say, newsflash, Twitter, not happening this time, especially whenever he barely attempts 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. These guys are going to stand and they're going to trade, and they're two completely, totally, I wouldn't say polar opposites. I mean, both of them have power in both hands, and both of them can knock out anybody in that division at any time. But at the end of the day, like, how is it going to take place when they get in close range? Like, is Yoel going to try to push him against the fence? I think there's a lot more juice to this one than there is the co-main, even though there's plenty of drippage coming out of that one as well.
JHK, what do you think? What's your go-to if you can only pick one?
Drippage, that is disgusting. All
I
right.
agree.
Now, now entering UFC 248, I last week I felt like, okay, this strawweight fight, is going to be more interesting to me because of, Weili. She was training in China. She had to go to Bangkok. Then she had to go to Abu Dhabi, and then she had to travel to Las Vegas, right? Or LA to Las Vegas. And she was running away from, because of this whole coronavirus outbreak, and she was running away from that. And I wanted to see maybe, hey, how is she going to react to all of this? And also going into Vegas, she hasn't fought on a big pay-per-view like this before. You got to remember, her title fight was when? It was in Shenzhen. It was in her own country. It was with limited media, only Chinese media. She didn't have to worry about the big cameras, the big lights, the whole Las Vegas experience. She's never been through that. So I was always thinking like, hey, that's going to have a big effect most likely on her. Joanna, she's fought 10 title fights in the UFC. All of this is not new to her. And I felt like that would be the good story coming in. But now with this new video evidence of, have you seen Izzy? He has staph infection, or what looks like to be staph infection on his arm. I want to see how that affects his cardio, how that affects his weight cut, and to see, Romero, a guy that's probably never going to win the title. I feel like this could give him the chance. This spot on his arm could give him the chance to win this title, and that's why instead of the strawweight fight, I like the main event a little bit more. That intrigues me a little bit more.
Craig put out rebuttal, then he said recant rebuttal, but I'm going to give you the option whether you want to use it or not right now, Craig, with the original hot take shades.
We're late in the game. I'm going to take the hot take shades off. The issue I had was the word drippage. Don't use the word drippage ever again. We have to really hammer that point home. But if I can be serious for a moment and build a little bit off of what John said, you're taking somebody that's coming from an epicenter of one of the biggest virus outbreaks that we've seen in a long time. She can all of a sudden become a symbol of hope for that city and that country. And I'm not like, I'm being serious here. This is such a big moment. And even if she loses, it's the fact that she persevered. She made it out of China. She made it to the States. She made it on one of the biggest cards that we've had so far this year, which there's only been a few, but still, it's a big card. And this is a great opportunity for her to shine. So win or lose, Zhang Wei Li is a winner in my books, and that's just why it lends credence to that co-main event. I know I'm here on Strawweight Island. Myself and Drake Riggs were the only two here. But listen, I think it's a great fight and a great opportunity.
I love that Craig says one of the biggest cards. There's been 3 pay-per-view cards, and it is definitely the least of the 3 combined. The return of Conor McGregor and then John Jones. Yeah,
I was halfway through a sentence. I changed it.
Man, it was funny because I'm listening to these answers and I'm about to say, man, Davidson Baker is like the Robbie Lawler of the panel. Like, just when you think he might be done, he comes out storming in the final round, and then JHK comes in and just trips him. Like, he just gives him the old schoolyard trip.
Because of the criticism of the word drippage.
No, I'm not. That was just hilarious. That had nothing to do with the answer. But JHK had a great answer and kind of stole your thunder. So that being said, we have to say goodbye to the great Davidson Baker here. This is a tough one, man. It's tough.
I had a fire answer coming for number 5. I'm more disappointed that I'm not going to give it out.
That's all right. Well, any final words for the folks before we, kick you out in a very respectful way?
Very respectful, always respectful. And if I'm going to talk about respectful, I will definitely pay my respects to my friend across the world, John. Please stay safe. I know that's going on crazy over there. Pleasure to have you on the show always. Hopefully we can talk NFL on the airwaves soon too, man. That's still got to happen.
Davidson, people don't want to hear you on
definitely.
People don't want to hear you talk about MMA, never mind NFL.
Okay, thank you, Keith. On that, I will walk out the door.
All right, later, man. Davidson Baker, everybody. This is so much easier than Skype. You just push a button and they're gone. So we move on to the semifinals here. We got 3 left. We got Craig and Keith and John, and they're going to battle it out. So for those watching right now, chime in on who you think should head to the finals. Chicken Parm Dave, I think he's already made his decision, but we'll go from here. Let's take a look at the rest of this card because we already talked about the 2 title fights, and there are some really good matchups for folks like us who watch everything. There are some really good matchups here. For the casual fan, they're going to say, I don't know who half these guys are. It's very top heavy and all those little cliches, but be that as it may, let's get the casuals on board. This is what we do here on Between the Lanes. Let's take a look at the rest of the lineup. Take a look at storylines that are going to be buried through most of this fight week with the 2 title fights and, the staph infection gate and all that stuff that's already come up here on this Monday. What storyline, fighter, or fight should everyone be paying attention to heading into UFC 248, Craig?
For about 82 Canadian dollars, or exactly 69 US dollars, you could get a personalized message from Sean O'Malley over on the Talkie app. Did you know that? You probably didn't. Is that why this is a storyline? Of course it is. It's hard to believe that the last time we saw Sugar Sean O'Malley was back at UFC 222. I'm talking Cyborg and Kunitskaya, if you forgot. And he was injured against Andrei Sukumtov. But some of the worst fight IQ that we've seen in a long time was put on that day by Sukumtov. All of a sudden, Sean O'Malley gets the win, runs into USADA issues, but he's cleared of any wrongdoing. So now finally he's booked against Jose Alberto Quinones, a guy that came into the UFC off of the Ultimate Fighter Season 1 Latin America. And it's been back and forth. And I know he lost in the finals to Alejandro Perez, who he actually trains with now in Mexico. but it's been a so-so career for Jose Quinones in the UFC. I mean, he has wins. All of the wins that he has, none of those guys are in the UFC anymore, and the losses are to Perez and Nathaniel Wood. So this is an ultimate chance for Sean O'Malley to get a win. It's a layup of a fight, and it's one of those ones that they're going to build him back up into a superstar. He's undefeated. Here's your chance to put Sean O'Malley back on the map against Jose Quinones, and that's my it's probably going to go under the radar compared to our co-main and our main. This is the one that, listen, if you have an extra $69 hanging around, you get a personalized message from Sugar Sean O'Malley.
JHK, what do you think?
Austin Hubbard. Do you remember Austin Hubbard? The guy that got compartment syndrome in his leg, almost lost his leg after he won his fight. Was in the hospital for a month in the psych ward, went through 3 surgeries, and now he's back fighting against Mark O. Madsen, undefeated Danish fighter, Olympic wrestler, I believe silver medalist. Not the one that you'd be confused with if you're familiar with the Lakers. He's a Laker great, Mark Madsen. But yes, Marco Madsen. I feel like this is an interesting fight. Well, on one side, you got Marco Madsen, like I mentioned, Olympic medalist, undefeated, second fight in his pro UFC career, coming in against Austin Hubbard, a guy that almost lost his leg. What do I have to sell it more to you? Like, this is a fight that you need to be watching. Like, is he gonna blow his leg up again? Come on,
man. Keith, I don't know if going first was an advantage or going last is an advantage. You get 2 great answers here.
Well,
what's your pick?
No, they're not great answers. I'm gonna tell you that right now. So, yeah, I'm supposed to get excited. Yeah, he's cool that he still has leg. That's cool. Like, I should spend all my money to watch that. He's going against a guy. Yeah, Marco Madsen. It's great because he won silver in the Olympics. He's 35. Listen, Shogun Hua. Everyone's like making fun of him, like he's all washed up, and he's been washed up for 10 years. 10 years ago, we say we're done with Shogun. He was 28 then. I'm supposed to get excited by a guy starting his UFC career at 35. Like, he's going to make some run, and he's going against Austin Hubbard, a guy who's, low-level UFC as it comes. And then Craig actually gave the right answer, but he didn't sell it right. I know Mike will probably give him the points because he said it first. But yes, Sean O'Malley's come back after 2 years. He's coming back from his first fight since he has broken leg. The dude's undefeated. He's 25 years old. ESPN had him ranked the number 2 guy under the age of 25. But the biggest thing about being 25 is you make huge jumps between each fight and improvement. We've seen him with AJ McKee, going back to a guy like Max Holloway, BJ Penn going way back. But the reason why Craig had a terrible answer is he undersold Jose Quinones. He said exactly, quote, cut Dave Chicken Palm cut this. He said that Jose Quinones has a so-and-so UFC career. The guy's won 5 out of his last 6 UFC fights. That's so-and-so. Yeah, sure, he hasn't beat the best guys in the division, but Jose Quinones is by far the toughest test of Sean O'Malley's young career. And this guy saying, like, so-and-so, no. He said, like, it's a gimme fight, which I think it's going to be. I mean, I think Sean O'Malley's going to smash him, but he's going to have a so-and-so career, winning 5 out of his last 6 fights. I mean, Craig, that was a terrible line. If you're going to say what's Sean O'Malley, then sell his opponent. Sell it.
I don't need to sell it when he's going to win the fight. He's going to destroy his opponent. Let's talk about the wins. Leonardo Morales, Joey Gomez, Diego Rivas, Taruto Ishihara.
I get it. All right. Now,
and then you even said that
hold on. Now read Sean O'Malley's wins. Like, who's the big, huge name that's jumping out? Who's the big win that he got? Was it Andre Sukmantut? Was that the big win he got?
Listen, Terrion Ware got a bad rap.
Terrion Ware, who's like
absolute killers.
Hold on.
And Alfred Kashakian had a good fight against Sergio Pettis and Bellator and get knocked out.
Terrion Ware, who's lost like 5 fights in a row, but the guy who's won 5 out of 6, not that guy.
David Nuzzo was 9-1 going into the fight.
Stop it. Jose Quinones has won 5 of his last 6, and then you got the other answers, a 35-year-old guy.
Are you done? Are we all done here? Good Lord. I actually think both of you are wrong. I think Sean O'Malley is the story, but can he get to the fight? Will something crazy pop up before Saturday? Will that phone ring? And they say, dude, picograms are too high, you're out. Because that's what he's dealing with this entire camp. And that's what he's been dealing with for like a year now. All these fights he's had, he's getting these phone calls. You're out. You're not going to make it.
Yeah, but Vegas is they're so strict in Nevada. They wouldn't have booked a fight in Nevada. They would have booked it in Wichita, Kansas, where they're going to have open scoring. They would have done something crazy.
Well, I mean, he's been booked in Vegas before, and he just got booted or got moved to another card. I mean, this is what happened with this one. So,
but
I mean,
in all fairness, they didn't have their pulsing. They didn't know about pulsing until the John Jones thing. Like people like bring up Frank Mir and they'll bring up Tom Lawler and all that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Like
it's just crazy.
They've proven that it's truly has like that someone who's fails will be pulsing still. It's proven now.
Yeah, but he still has a certain level. Like I think it's 100 picograms. If he goes above that, he's out. Doesn't matter if it's pulsing or not. If he goes above that number, he's out of the fight. So that's interesting. That's something to keep an eye on. I don't know what to do here because I thought all three of your answers were great. John, Drake, anybody want to weigh in here?
It's me versus John in the finals.
Are you kidding me?
So Craig, just because you put on hot shades,
just
because you put on shades doesn't make. You said a guy had a so great. I guess the guy's won 5 out of his last 6 fights. So he's been so and so. Like you only fight the guys in front of you. He's won 5 out of 6. Dude, get out of here. Get out of here.
I'll tell you what, JHK is going to the finals just because he's not getting involved in this tomfoolery. I'm literally spinning a pen right now to decide who's going.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, my boy Dave is gonna flip out if I don't make finals. And you know who's really gonna flip out is my boy Marcel, because Marcel knows I get ripped off all the time. He's gonna claim it again.
You should cut both of these dudes.
John, you win. 30 seconds. The pen pointed towards Keith. Unfortunately,
that's what I said. Go with the pen. That's what I said. Go with the pen.
Absolute garbage, Mike.
Craig,
you're judging up to a pen.
Craig, honestly, listen, Craig. Your best chance was him to go by a pen, because if he was going by argument, I smashed you all show long.
Listen,
you can be listen, Craig.
I'm gonna leave on this. Mike, you can boot me out. I'll end myself. I'll leave the studio. And I'm so glad that everybody's joined us tonight because I've had a lot of fun. It's been a week off. I missed off the cuff. I missed between the links. The good Lord had me playing hockey on a Monday and a Tuesday night, and it was a lot of fun. Point being here, when you've got an old sweater that your grandmother knit and you love it to bits and you used to cuddle it in bed and you loved it so much. And then after the years, you just start to pull on that thread, and then the whole thing unravels. That was like Keith's argument in his last answer when he eventually said in that answer, yeah, I mean, Sean O'Malley's going to steamroll him, but it doesn't matter. I mean, Jose Alberto Quinones, not a great opponent. I'm going to die on that hill, and I don't care. You can talk badly about me. You can hit me up in the comments on YouTube. Keith, this has been a robbery, and we're saying robbery a lot in judging. The pen made the wrong decision. So we don't have to blame Mike. We're blaming the pen here.
Listen, I'll tell you, there's a whole bunch of guys who wish they had a 5-6 record in the UFC. A 5-1 record.
5-6 record. Yeah.
5 out of 6.
Keith, Craig just got out of here. He's done. We're going to head to the finals. Quick reminder, little cheap plug, subscribe to the network right here on YouTube. Hit the old subscribe button. Also on all the audio platforms where you can listen to your favorite podcasts, such as Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, etc. Very few are doing what this network is doing in terms of shows, variety, content, etc. So just do yourself a favor. If you want anything from full breakdowns and recaps to scorching hot takes from Frederick Kirby, we got everything. We got you covered. So if you haven't already subscribed on all these platforms, you'll be glad that you did. So JHK, you're the top seed in my opinion. So pick a number between 1 and 25.
11.
Keith. 12.
17 is the number. So Keith, what are we doing? Are we receiving or are we kicking off?
I'm gonna let our special guest go first.
All right, JHK, we're gonna ask you this question first. And somebody actually brought this up to me the other day, and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna answer this question. I'm gonna bring it up in between the links. So it's pretty interesting. So the question is, I'm gonna try to get this as best I can. From where they began in 2019 to where we are right now in 2020, in your opinion, which fighter's stock has dropped the most over the last 15 months or so? Like, who needs a resurgence? Who may never find it again? who sticks out to you as someone who had a huge drop over this last year or so and is in a completely different spot that they were at the beginning of last year?
I would have to say John Jones. Even though John Jones is still the champion, I believe his stock has dropped completely with all that's going on with the USADA and in the picograms and the performances. Look at all his performances in the last 15 months. With his Santos performance, Santos arguably probably beat John Jones, and he was injured. Both his knees were blown out. Then after that fight, who did he take on? Anthony Smith. That performance wasn't so great. After that, he took on Dominic Reyes, and a lot of people's eyes, he lost that fight. So I feel like John Jones right now, his next performance is going to be the most important performance of his career, because his stock is at the lowest it has ever been in his career. And if he doesn't perform in his next fight, I believe he's not going to be the champion anymore. And whoever fights him next will be the new light heavyweight champion.
It's an interesting take on that. I got to be honest, John Jones wasn't who I was thinking of, but you did come in here and make an argument. Keith is like salivating right now. I see drool coming off the side of his face. What do you got?
Listen, I like John, just for the record. I want to say that, but I'm going to feel really bad with this slaughter that's about to go down, because he seems like a really nice guy. I watch his videos all the time. I do Contender Series previews, and he interviews a lot of the guys Contender Series. I think he's really, really good. But this is just not the format for him, because that was one of the worst answers. He said he ended it with John Jones' stock is the lowest it's ever been. Is it? He's ranked number 1 pound for pound in the UFC rankings. You're telling me that's lower than when he was getting arrested for hitting a pregnant lady, when he was testing positive for cocaine? He brought up picograms and all this stuff. That's been going on forever with John Jones. That didn't just happen in 2019. In fact, since 2019, he has not failed a test. So, I don't get that. And I don't know who asked this question, but I appreciate that person asking, because this is the easiest answer in the history of the show. Starting in January of 2019, there was a fighter who was attempting to be a 2-weight champion. This guy was considered by many people, some people were arguing that he was the greatest fighter in the history of the bantamweight division. That man is TJ Dillashaw. Now he's on a 2-year suspension. His legacy is ruined. Nobody's backing this guy up. He had to do a big apology, and he had to admit that it was like the Lance Armstrong type cheating. It was like one of the worst cheatings. He's stained forever. His stock is lower than ever. That's the answer. There's no way I lost this round, Mike. And you know it. You know it, Mike. Do not rob me, Mike. There's no way I lost this round. Don't be pulling out some stupid pen or anything. This was an absolute slaughter.
I just want to see what your face looked like after you stopped talking. But JHK, continue.
Keith, did you just raid an evidence locker at the local police station? Because you must be on some really good bath salts right now. Because what does hitting a woman in his car have anything to do with fighting? What does it have anything to do with fighting? We're talking about fighting. The stock as in fighting.
It was simple. He got the belt stripped from him. Remember that? They stripped the belt from him. They suspended him and stripped the belt from him. That has a lot. That lost him money. He lost a Nike deal. That lost a lot. That stock was a lot lower. Going 3-0 and not failing a drug test since 2019 is not, and being ranked the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world according to the UFC rankings. That's a pretty good.
You believe the rankings? You trust the rankings?
No, I wouldn't.
You look at the rankings and you think, the rankings are the greatest thing that the UFC is doing right now. Is that what you're saying?
Hold on. I didn't say according to Keith Schilling's rankings. I said according to the UFC rankings.
That's what I'm saying. According to the UFC rankings. When do you look at the UFC rankings and you agree with the rankings?
I agree with a lot of the rankings. I think you would too. A lot of the rankings, I would say the majority you do agree with. Is there a couple spots that are off? Yeah, of course. But that doesn't mean that the people exaggerate how bad the ranking. That's a huge exaggeration. Go through the rankings right now.
Huge exaggeration. I believe there's a lot of.
Go through the rankings right now and tell me what's egregiously bad. You might find 1 or 2 that guy shouldn't be ranked in the top 15, but generally speaking, they're pretty good.
I don't know. Conor McGregor being ranked. You think that's
Why wouldn't he be? This guy that won two titles, two different weight classes, just returned, knocked the guy out in 40 seconds. I mean, why wouldn't he be ranked?
Are you serious? Conor McGregor should be ranked right now. He
Why-
beat Cerrone, and
Yeah.
that's it. That's all you need to do is come back and beat one guy, and then you become ranked. So if
Cerrone was ranked. Cerrone was ranked. And
I know Cerrone was ranked, but I'm saying like
hold on. To acting like Conor, that the only
as
thing
a
he ever did.
lightweight.
Hold on. To act like the only thing he's done. Yeah, he shouldn't be ranked at lightweight. He's the former champion. He starts Eddie Alvarez and like one of the flawless victory. Yeah.
When was that? 5 years ago?
Okay, he's been inactive. There's a whole bunch of guys ranked inactive. I mean, Cain Velasquez was ranked for years.
That's you're arguing for me right now.
You're telling me right now that Conor McGregor isn't the top 15 lightweight in the world. You're gonna tell me that right now?
No, he hasn't.
You're telling me right now that Conor McGregor isn't a top 15. Dude, get this guy out of here.
He is not. He is not a top 15 ranked lightweight in the world. He's a welterweight right now. He ain't even gonna cut down to lightweight. What are you talking about?
What are you talking? Where did this information come from?
He's
talking about Habib. He's talking about fighting Habib. He literally said, "I will weigh in for the fight in Brooklyn. I will weigh in for that fight."
I say a lot of shit. He says a lot of shit. You see all his interviews. Half the shit is bullshit, right? So there's a lot of things that people say all the time. Fighters, media members, Twitter followers. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they say. It's what they do. And Keith, I see your argument, but I'm saying like the rankings, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just a little bit of what we were talking about. I'm just saying though, but John Jones, as in fighting wise, his stock is the lowest. And the arguments that I made is his performances. I look at the performances in the cage, and I understand the side of TJ Dillashaw, but TJ Dillashaw's ghost. He's a ghost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's a ghost. Yeah. I understand your argument. I'm not arguing against what you're saying about TJ Dillashaw.
One guy is ranked the number one pound for pound. The other guy is a ghost. You're absolutely right. Thank you. You're right. Give me.
Yeah, but
all right, I'm gonna stop my 30.
I'm
gonna stop my 30 seconds now. All right. You want to start right now?
All right, hold on. I mean, that's the beauty of this game. Questions can be interpreted the way you see fit, and that's what's good about it. I would say, and I think everybody watching and listening are probably in agreement here. Keith won the finals in terms of the question, but JHK won the overtime. I think that's pretty clear, and everyone here in the comments agrees with that as well. But Conor McGregor being in the rankings doesn't really matter at this point. So Keith, reluctantly, you get the win and the spoils, so you get 30 seconds to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk about the UFC rankings. I want to say how they're not that bad. I didn't have anything planned, but I'm going to go. I don't think the UFC rankings. I'm going to say Conor McGregor. I think people are crazy. Conor McGregor should be. I think he should be ranked both at lightweight and welterweight. I mean, 2 of his last 3 fights have been at lightweight. Guys, people hate on Conor. If it was anybody else, they wouldn't even be mentioning this. Conor's one of the greatest fighters of all time. Stop it. That's all I'm going to say about that.
That's your 30 seconds?
Yeah, what else was I talking about? And I had a good joke. For when you eliminated me. I'm going to save it for next week.
All right. Well, I might have to give Craig the win after all this because this guy Fight Night Picks keeps saying Craig should win, but we all know what that means. JHK, appreciate you coming on. We're waiting a while to do this. I'm glad we were able to make it happen. What would you like to say to the fine folks watching right now and that are listening around the world?
To the 10 billion listeners right now that are following us in China and Inner Mongolia, man, it was an honor to come on. It is so hectic. Like, this is an experience that I'll never forget. The reason why is I was flabbergasted at some of the things that was going on, and this is something that you need to practice. This is something that you need to do over and over and over again. And if you can come on here and do it for the first time and be successful, man, you are an animal. And Keith, you're an animal, man. Respect.
Oh man, this guy gets all. Listen, you were great for the show until the last one. You got nice. We don't go nice on the show, man. We can be nice on every other show, but not on this side. You're supposed to call me an asshole.
You're an asshole, but
yeah,
what can you do?
Much love, man. You're great, brother.
Yeah, good episode. It was everything I hoped for and more. It was fantastic. I think a lot of people would agree with that as well. So congratulations to Keith for another victory. JHK, thank you for coming on. For JHK, Keith, Craig, and Davidson, I am Mike Heck. Appreciate you guys listening and subscribing. Make sure you do it right now on the YouTube page before we get out of here. And enjoy the fights this weekend. There's going to be some really good ones. We'll see you back here on Monday night. We'll do it again between the links. Join us tomorrow night for Off the Cuff with myself, Craig Allen, Drake Riggs, and Kyle Steele. JHK, feel free to jump in and leave your stuff in the comments like you do every week. We appreciate that very much. So thank you guys for listening. Have a good night.